I make like to-do lists.
So,
I make like to-do lists every day. So I've started putting it on my to-do list. Just now it's coming pretty easy.
mm. So you most do every day or what?
I try to do every weekday.
Okay. Mhm. Scarlett, how is your meditation?
It's been really good. I've tried something new this week. I've been doing my meditations before work instead of after work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's been really helpful and kind of setting me up for the day. Originally, I wasn't going to do that because I wake up at 6 in the morning. So I just thought, I was like, that's too early to meditate. But it's really not. And it's pretty great to kind of set up the day and decide how I want to mindfully view the day.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good that you calm your mind before the day, right? Before go out to work or even go to school. Yeah. Amber, how is your meditation?
It hasn't been too bad. I've been slowly but surely getting to 10 minutes of meditation instead of 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I break those 10 minutes into 5 minute sessions because I'm afraid that if I did just 10 minutes without like stopping, I'm afraid I'll get bored and my mind will wander. So
Mm-hmm.
just to avoid doing that. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say my favorite thing to do is the body scan
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times I don't realize how like tense my body actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I do the body scans, like I can feel tightness in my jaw. I can feel like my
Mm-hmm.
knees are at a weird angle, so they kind of hurt a little bit. Like my back isn't positioned correctly, so there's a bit of pain in my lower back, and I'm able to adjust myself
Mm-hmm.
or like loosen my jaw or move my legs, and I can just feel the
Mm-hmm.
pain immediately go away, and I feel my body relax, and it's such a great feeling.
Wow, that's wonderful. You never did that before our meditation practicum, right?
Nope.
Now you know now, right? It's just
Yes.
many ways, right? If you enjoy walking, just do the trucking around the school, around your neighborhood, and so forth. You enjoy whichever techniques that you feel comfortable with. Lexis, how your meditation?
It's been really good. I've been doing it every single day. Mostly I really do it before bed, but I've been doing it a lot more frequently, like throughout the day too.
Mm-hmm.
And the body scan, I've been doing that for a while, but I didn't have like the name for it. So now being able to like put the name to it
Oh, okay.
helps me like now
Mm-hmm.
I can go and really look at that and understand why I do it so often.
Yeah, especially after work, even after school, right? You just lie
hmm
down there, relax yourself, so that you can rearrange your strength physically and mentally, right? Hmm. Okay, Brandon, how is your meditation?
It's going well.
Hmm.
It's been a really stressful couple weeks. I've been dealing with a lot of loss in the family, and I have been doing them at work during my planning period. Because I gotta work on myself, right? And I found like after doing them, like I feel like I'm more able to take on the end of the workday and just get through it and survive. Because I was not feeling great like throughout the day, and then after I did them, I felt just so much better and felt just more ready to keep going.
Hmm. That's great. Can you stay back, please? Okay, I have
Yeah.
something to talk about. All right, let's thank you, thanks for sharing and keep up again. Learning without practicing, you will not feel, you not recognize the benefit, right? Um, it's just empty talk or just empty theories and principle until we feel that, right? All right, let's move on to our discussion today. In general, Emily, is that how about the articles? Is understandable or too much for you to read?
It's good.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. Yeah. Okay. You are you right? You and Lexus number one, two. Oh, three. Uh, Lexus and Scarlett. You choose before can we spread out? Either Scarlett or Alexis, can you choose different question, because I think two is more. Two is more enough. We want to spread out so that we can learn together. That's okay. Let's start with Emily then. Go ahead, Emily. You can start with number one then. Could read the question and what you learned from that articles.
Okay. Describe how nurse practitioners consider hospice care as meditation in action, besides abiding in liminal spaces, seeing things in different perspectives, and resting with groundlessness. And I said, besides abiding in liminal spaces, seeing things in different perspectives, and resting with groundlessness, nurse practitioners recognize their prejudice while working in hospice care. An important aspect of mindfulness is to beware of judgmental thoughts and to let go of them. Likewise, predispositions in palliative care will do no good for the nurse practitioner or the patient involved. The experience becomes more fulfilling if assumptions are not made about the patient or their situation. It allows both parties to be more intimate with each other, unknowing of any predisposed expectations. Hospice patients are in their most vulnerable states. Compassion and acceptance help them to fully engage in the moment and to let go of upsetting thoughts.
Okay, so there are three, right? There are three, what do you call here? Three themes, right? Practice meditation action, right? Meditation action 4 theme, right? Abiding in liminal spaces, seeing differently, resting in groundlessness. So which one you think that's for the nurse practitioner applicable for them or useful for them? Which one for these 4 themes?
Seeing in different perspectives.
Why?
Because the patient is going through a lot, so it'd probably be helpful to see it through their point of view to help take care of them better.
What happens if they just see in the traditional view that the patient come and you need to take care of them? It's like a burden, is that right? So why you need to, as a nurse, why do they need to see in different view? The more healthy way. Why? Instead of traditional one. Why?
It'll be more just objective. We won't think about everything the patient has done or could have done. It's just seeing them as a patient.
Okay. Can you read the scene differently? I think they have 5 items there. You recognize 5 items there? Seen differently, you don't recognize that? All right, so that's okay. Has Scarlett, go ahead. You can do the number 1 now. Scarlett.
Okay, I said that meditation action means that nurse practitioners view caregiving as a very mindful action, and they focus on being present in the moment and set an intention to be mindful and remember that intention. And then they recognize the immediacy of the present moment and how it's fleeting. And then I said that abiding in liminal spaces means that nurse practitioners view their work as occurring in the boundaries between themselves and others, work and spiritualness, and living and dying. So kind of just in between. And they seeing this in that way provides them a unique perspective on both life and death. And they appreciate the interconnectedness of all things. And then for seeing differently, I said that through mindfulness, these practitioners experience a shift in their perception. They notice the beauty and the significance and the ordinary kind of simple experiences in life, and allows them to appreciate the little things in lives, to create a supportive environment for their patients, and then and again, they just recognize how important it is to create an environment of simplicity for those that are suffering and to help them find peace. And then I said, lastly, the resting with groundlessness means that caregivers understand the impermanence and the constant change in life, and they recognize the fear that realizing this can bring, but they learn to rest in this fear and accept it, meaning letting go of the desire for things to be different and facing that fear. And this allows them to connect and be more compassionate with their patients who are also recognizing the same things and are probably fearing death and all of the impermanence of life. That-
Okay. Right here. Let me share with you here. Okay, right here. Right. Emily, yeah, that's what I asked about here. Vivid sense of appreciation and beauty. You understand this, Emily? What's mean?
Well, vivid sense of appreciation and beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to appreciate things as they are and
Okay.
seeing them in their best light.
Okay. Scarlett, you have any idea about this one? How could you have that sense of appreciation and beauty?
So I think it goes with the seeing differently
Mm-hmm.
thing that the caregivers do. They basically recognize how short life is because they're working with patients that are dealing with death. And because of this, they try to be mindful and show them the simplicity of life and just every little thing that is done. They see the beauty and just the simplicity of life, I guess.
The beauty, I mean, the appreciation that they still alive, right? Appreciation that they still have a chance to take care of others, and it's even the beauty, right? The beauty of human life, right? It's changing and resting with groundlessness. Let go of wishing things were otherwise and feel what maybe. What do you think? You understand this, Scarlett? What was let go of wishing things were otherwise? What's mean?
I said that letting go of trying to make things different in life, accepting the fear that death does happen and their patients might die, and just accepting that because their patients are going to have to accept the same thing.
Yeah, especially if you're a nurse practitioner, you have to deal with all kind of trauma, right? You may walk into the room to see your patient to pass away, right? And if you don't have that kind of strength and understanding and this acceptance, it will be traumatic for you, right? It's horrible for you because if, 5 minutes ago you talked with that person and later on that person is gone, right? It's not easy to handle if you're not ready. So these are the themes of this what we call 4 approaches, right? For the nurse or even for the medical practitioner, medical healthcare to have. Okay. All right. So thank you. Let's number 2. Yeah, Luke, please. Luke and Jesse. Go ahead, Luke, please.
Yeah, so I found that the negative thought.
Sorry, can you read the question, please?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Let me get it. All right. So it asks, elaborate the role of acceptance and mindfulness in enhancing the quality of life of obese people while concurrently working on weight control efforts. And so I found that the negative thoughts and feelings that come from distress, different types of stigma, and they mentioned social stigma specifically, which is like other people having a bad regard for those that are obese or overweight, and the quality of life make it more difficult for overweight and obese people to seek out change. The thoughts and feelings that they have make them feel that they're like not in control of their lives. And because of that, they don't want to take action to change their health. They start to adopt an avoidant and inflexible mindset towards their weight, and it makes it to where they don't want to like work out or eat healthier, and they stay the way that they are, and essentially it leads down a downward spiral of negative thoughts and them persistently not wanting to change. The article I read, it specifically mentions that weight loss therapies, like traditional ones, they engage in allowing people to deny or suppress the negative thoughts that they have. And what it's shown is that the traditional weight loss therapies, they yield negative results. 70 to 75% of the people that lose weight through the therapies regain them back within the next year. And the article found that this is because of the difficult thoughts, feelings, and sensations that the weight programs don't teach them how to handle. And because of that, what the authors try to do is they incorporate acceptance and mindfulness into their own type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's abbreviated as ACT. And what it is it's a cognitive behavioral approach that uses both acceptance and mindfulness to change behavior that influences flexibility and undermines avoidance. And it engages people into the acceptance aspect of mindfulness, and it allows them to have the goal of seeking innovation and making change possible. And lastly, the therapy consists of different psychological methods that help overweight people avoid negative thoughts and feelings through acceptance and mindfulness. And it allows them to have a greater locus of control to where they can feel motivated to change their lives and adapt a healthier lifestyle.
Okay. So why don't they use different mindfulness-based therapies besides ACT? Like DBT?
So,
Why
yeah, sorry. So specifically with ACT, the problem with the traditional therapies, as I said, is the fact that the difficult thoughts, feelings, and sensations, they consistently keep reoccurring in the overweight people, and it leads them to regain their weight and stuff. So what ACT does is it allows them to not deny or suppress their thoughts, rather it allows them to accept them and move forwards, and that's what allows them to lose and maintain the weight that they've lost.
All right, so let's thank you. We can come back. Jessie, what do you want to say about this question?
All right. So a really a big subject of all of the articles was how poorly what we're doing today to manage weight for like cognitive therapies and stuff isn't working. So like you said, it was like most people will gain it back, and usually they'll gain more back within the next, I think it was 3 years. And in one of the studies, it found that those that were unable to maintain their weight loss had a narrow range of coping skills. And because of that, whenever they were exposed to negative emotions or they had cravings or stress, anxiety, they reverted back to old coping mechanisms. And in this case specifically, it was eating. And I thought it was really interesting that, and I feel like there was a really big comparison between ACT being used for drug addiction and for weight loss management, because I feel like it's almost the same thing. Like you're trying to develop stronger coping mechanisms or healthier coping mechanisms for all your negative emotions. In one case, it's food, and the other one, it's alcohol, drugs, whatever. It also said that people who suffer from obesity were also more likely to try to lose weight in unhealthy ways, which is another reason it might not be. It's almost the more overweight you get, the harder it is to lose weight, because the more overweight you are, the more likely you are to try like intense dieting or over restrictions or intense workouts, which all of those have obviously proven to be super unsustainable. and not good for you at all. So all of this put together has led to the idea that's pretty recent that weight loss and weight management is so much more, it's a lot more psychological than we were led to believe. It's not just eat less, exercise more. Of course that will work, but it's a lot, for most people, it's a lot harder than it sounds, for sure.
So one more time, what's the difference between ACT and weight loss program? Why is there different?
Traditional weight loss programs are very like cut and dry. I suppose it's just like, they're very concerned about the physical aspects, and instead of they're trying to get someone to change their behavior without trying to figure out what's causing them to have that behavior in the first place. You know, like it's not, I guess, they're not trying to manage what's causing them. Because most people that are severely overweight, if you talk to them, they're like, oh, well, you know, my dad passed away, and after that, I felt like I didn't have anyone. So whenever I was stressed out, I would just eat, or you know, something along those lines. So you have to deal with that before you can even begin to deal with weight management.
Thank you. Look, so why ACT is more effective than the traditional weight loss program? Then why?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the traditional program, it makes it to where the people, they do lose the weight, but it comes with them regaining the weight because they don't know how to effectively control their thoughts and feelings. Whereas ACT, it tries to attack those negative thoughts and feelings at the root, and first undermines the fact that you have to accept them. And after you accept them and understand, you know, this is who I am, then afterwards comes from, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm at, but how do I change? So
remember the six aspect of the ACT. Remember them?
The aspect?
Six aspect of ACT. Remember them? Jesse, you remember six aspects of the ACT? Remember that?
Oh gosh, I'm looking for them in my notes right now. I don't have them memorized.
All right. Okay, you guys get that?
I'd like to think acceptance is one of them for sure.
What else? Acceptance. What else? Value, right? Present. What else?
Oh, there's also diffusion. I remember that one. I
Yeah.
remember that one.
Why
A
so
deeper
important?
awareness.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Jesse. Why diffusion is so important? Why?
Diffusion, when we're talking about it in this context, is kind of being able to step back. Like if you're about to make a decision or do something impulsive or something along those lines, you can step back and think, is this really what I want to do? Is this good for me? How will this impact me in the long run? And also your emotions. Like if, you know, you are a person that struggles with weight management and you're having a really intense craving for something that you probably shouldn't be eating, you could take a step back and be like, do I need this? Do I want this? Or is it just my brain? Is it just what I'm used to?
About look, how about value and action? How can you apply? How do they apply the value and action here?
So with action specifically, it says that the ability to diffuse from the difficult thoughts and to accept the feelings that these overweight people have, it allows them to persist in both values and the actions that they embark on throughout their,
ACT is so feasible in this type of situation, right? So that they can accept who they are, right? Don't fight, so that they can recognize define the value, and put in action, right? To live with the present moment, to diffuse the notion or the thinking that I'm bad and so forth. I just accept that and move on, right? Without fighting, right? So that is so beautiful. It is so effective. All right, so thank you. Lexis, number 3, please.
Number 3 is expound how mindfulness-based relapse can be used as an alternative and inexpensive treatment for addictive disorders. So starting off with addictive disorders, some of the main causes of them are that the person is dealing with anxiety or depression or things like that. Like there's things that are going on in their life that have caused them to want to cope with this, but they are choosing something like alcohol or drugs to cope with it. And they're trying to stop thinking about either what's going on at work or things that are making them anxious. And they're doing that through these coping mechanisms. So this article was talking about how mindfulness can be used to disrupt this craving response that people have to whenever they are addicted to a substance. And it disrupts this craving response and kind of makes them stop thinking about those anxieties and other things like the events that have happened that made them want to crave these things and brought them back to the present and made them have the headspace to deal with this addiction. And how they used mindfulness to be in replacement of things like CBT is for CBT, they talked about how like the cravings are a cognitive response to these stressors in their life, and then the behaviors are kind of like the addiction that they're actually having. So in this way, they were using mindfulness as a way to act as this CBT almost. So taking these patients, or maybe not even patients, just these people who are experiencing addiction, and helping them to deal with these emotions that they're having that they're having in their life that are causing them to have an addiction.
So do you know the cause of having addiction? What are the causes?
Some of the causes were anxiety, there was depression, there was a few different ones like that. I have it right over here. There was chronic pain, preventing a depressive relapse, and yeah, I believe that those were the ones.
Mm-hmm. There's some addiction like smoking, drinking, right? So they absorb the chemical, right, from cigarette, right? They absorb the chemical from alcohol, right? But what about the gambling? There's no chemical involved, but they get stuck with that addiction. Why is that?
They get stuck with this addiction because they have this chemical once or twice or a couple times, and then once it's absent, because these substances can like produce a dopamine response or things like that that make them happy, and once the substance is gone from their body, they stop having that response and they go into, I think they have less dopamine, like even less than before before they took the substance. So it's kind of like their body is having a response where not only do they have like these, like if you drink a lot of alcohol, you could have like the physical symptoms of like a headache, or you could feel nauseous, but then also your body is low on dopamine and low on serotonin and things that are making you happy. So it's wanting you to experience that again and craving that feeling.
I mean that smoking and drinking, right? You absorb or they absorb the chemical directly into the body. That's why whenever they take those drink or smoke, so they uh, feel happy because of those chemicals. When I'm talking about what happened with gambling, that doesn't involve in any kind of chemical directly to the body. So how could they get stuck with that gambling then?
Well, gambling for some people, I feel like they have an adrenaline rush almost, and that is its own kind of like addiction. Like there's people who are addicted to like thrill seeking and stuff like that, and that has its own like response in the body.
Anyone else, what do you think? For the gambling people, they don't absorb any chemical into the body, but somehow, why do they get stuck with those gambling? Why is that?
I think for a lot of people, especially those who have a gambling disorder, it's they do it as a way to avoid any negative stimuli. So if like stress from work, or let's say they're stressed from their family life, they use it as a way to avoid those feelings or avoid those stressors and feel happy, regardless of how temporary it is, to just feel happy in that moment. And they also use gambling as a way to avoid negative thoughts, feelings, urges, bodily sensations. So if they're going through a depressive episode, or if they're having anxiety, they can use gambling as a way to just shut those thoughts and feelings out, so they don't have to think about those thoughts anymore, and they can just focus on having fun while gambling or winning. And even though it's only a temporary fix for a problem that's always going to be there, they just are stuck in this loop of, oh, I don't want to think about this anymore, so they use gambling.
Anyone else? What do you think? Anyone else? Besides staying away from those type of stresses, anything else that gets them there? Psychological feeling, right? They excited when they win, right? When they lost the game, they feel sad. So win and loss, right? That excitement, that trigger their emotion, or their urge or crave for they play gambling. Of course, on the top of that, the craving for money too, right? They want to be winner. They want to get more money. They want to get rich quick, but that's not the case. So it's many things involved. Eventually, it become one of their physical and mental mechanism that they get used of that in part of their life. That's what they call addiction there. And so go back, Lexi. So when someone gets stuck with those type of addiction, how could they get out with mindfulness practice in the practical sense? How, according to the articles that you just read, how in practical sense, how can they get out of those type of addiction then?
So what it talked about for this was that the mindfulness approach for this helped to reduce the first of all, the reason why they were turning to addiction, and then mindfulness, I believe, could have been seen as an addiction of itself, because let me see. I know that I read this, I think it was in the discussion.
Which one, sorry, which mindfulness based service could be more effective to get them to help them to get out? ACT, DBT, MBSR, MBCT, and others. Which one is more effective?
I believe, let me think. Sorry, what was that first one that you had said?
DBT, ACT, MBSR, MBCT, or other mindfulness-based therapies. Which one is more effective to get them out?
I think that ACT would probably be the most effective.
Right.
It's kind of an acceptance of the behaviors that got them to this place and an acceptance of where they're at right now. And also they could use the different components like diffusion whenever they're about to make a bad choice, like going back to their addiction, and they could take a step back and evaluate their actions that they're about to take and help themselves to think about it and make sure that they're not making a bad choice.
Yeah. Okay, good, thank you. And plus the top of that is the value. They need to recognize the value of life instead of being hooked into that type of addiction, right? There's no way out. There's no light out of the channel. All right, so thank you. Move on to number 4, Amber and Brendan, please. You can read the question, please.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So for question 4, it said, describe how mindfulness-based interventions such as ACT are effective for a variety of mental and behavioral health conditions, including gambling disorders, and outperform that of CBT. So I looked at this question mostly focused on gambling disorders. So as we had talked about earlier, a lot of the time that people gamble and why they develop gambling disorders is, one, because they enjoy that rush they get at possibly winning big, or when they lose, they can always think, oh, well, I have another chance. I still have money left, so I can put that money in and get more money back. And another reason why people gamble is because they want to use it as a way to escape any negative stimuli that they face at work, at home, in their personal life, anything that causes them to feel negative emotions, like they can be sad, anxiety, stress, anything like that. They use it as a way to avoid those emotions for as or those thoughts or those sensations for as long as possible, even though gambling only gives them a temporary relief from those emotions. So with mindfulness-based interventions like ACT, they help gamblers learn how to effectively respond to those negative stimuli. So instead of using gambling as a way to cope with those, or as a way to avoid those stimuli or avoid those emotions, they can, ACT helps them learn, and other mindfulness-based interventions help them learn how to respond to those situations or those sensations instead of fighting them, and develop more effective coping strategies for those. So like breathing meditation or body scans instead of gambling as a way to cope with those. These interventions, they promote attention to negative stimuli that evoke problematic behavior like gambling, and they help them select more effective responses. And these these interventions have been shown to increase positive coping strategies for gambling urges that people may feel whenever they're stressed or anxious about something. And they also help them have a higher tolerance of negative cognitive and physical experiences. And with the article that I had read, it had shown that 13 studies have found that mindfulness-based interventions had significant positive effects on gambling behaviors, urges, and financial outcomes. So there have been multiple studies that have shown that mindfulness-based interventions have helped people who struggle with gambling disorders develop more useful coping strategies for their gambling urges and focus more on the what exactly causes them to want to gamble and try to, well, first off, accept that you are feeling that way instead of trying to fight it, and learn how to respond to that more healthily instead of giving into those urges and gambling and losing money. And with the latter half of the question, where it was talking about how ACT outperformed CBT, CBT focuses more on eliminating and changing behaviors and thought processes, those negative behaviors and thought processes, instead of actually finding the root cause of these behaviors and responses and trying to change it at the root. So instead of thinking more openly about why people are having these gambling urges and why they are giving into these urges, they just focus on, well, stop gambling, like focus on something else. While ACT and mindfulness-based interventions focus on being aware of those urges, accepting those urges and not reacting to or giving into them, while also responding to those negative stimuli that cause them to want to gamble and develop more effective coping strategies for those behaviors instead of outright changing them. And yes, with those interventions, they don't try to fight or avoid negative behaviors. They accept them as just a part of who you are and as those emotions you feel whenever you want to give into gambling as something you're feeling in the present moment, and just accept them and try to work your way around them or work with them instead of just outright eliminating them out of your life.
Thank you. Yeah, Brandon, please, you can want to add anything more about this?
Yeah, so mindfulness-based interventions and acceptance commitment therapy, they both work with each other to help with what they with like gambling, mental health, behavioral health, and substance abuse. So what some of the research found was both mindfulness and acceptance helped with gambling disorders because they became more aware of impulses and triggers. Using psychology and coping skills from ACT, and then with mindfulness-based practices, they both seen substantial impact with improving symptoms. The article about spirituality, I really like what it said in the discussion section. It said, from a Buddhist perspective, mindfulness is seen as a necessary technique in the pursuit of spiritual goals. However, mindfulness may also be viewed as a way of being present and open to one's life experiences, unrelated to a spiritual path per se. So I took this as where mindfulness is rooted with a Buddhist perspective. It is a technique where in spirituality, you are pursuing goals. But I did find that mindfulness was just being present in the moment and open to experience. It was a little different than having a spiritual path. And then the other one did research on gambling and found that it had good effects, but they needed to see what research could be done.
Mm-hmm. At IUS, I don't know whether you're aware of some students, they may have some type of football gambling. I don't know whether you know about that. Brandon, you heard about that, right?
About what?
Football gambling. That's mean whenever they have the football game, they have make the kind of gambling, right? You know what
Yeah.
that? Betting, right? Football
Yeah.
betting, right? Look, you know what that? Look, are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of it, but I could totally imagine it being a thing.
Mm. Yeah. When I was in college, Penn State University, back in the 80s, 90s. You know, Penn State, right? One of the famous football team, right? Many of them they get stuck into the betting, gambling for football games. So let's see here. So Amber, so let's say if some of your friends get stuck with that, so how could you talk them out? How could you help them? If they don't know anything about meditation, if they don't believe, if they don't, if they have not read any articles or anything about meditation, ICT, and so forth. So how could you start to help them out?
I think my first step, if I had a friend who was struggling with betting, sports betting, I think my first step would be to help them realize that their betting is an issue. Because I think a lot of times with people, at least this is from my perspective, I don't know if this is like fully true, but I feel like a lot of people who have an addiction with like sports betting or alcohol or any addiction is a lot of times they don't realize that they're addicted to it. They kind of just think it's a natural thing and that it's normal that they're betting this much money constantly or that they are drinking this amount every single day. So I think I would try to help them realize that their betting is an issue and try to approach it non-judgmentally, so not accusing them of, oh, you're betting so much money, so like you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, like you should feel ashamed of yourself. I would try to assure them that, hey, you have an issue with betting, but I'm here to help you. There's multiple outlets that you can use instead of betting, like reading, writing, painting. There's a whole bunch of activities you can do instead of betting, and trying to help them fight those urges in case they are having those urges to bet or whatever is causing them to bet, to address those issues and try to resolve them. Not, I mean, I don't think we can resolve them quickly, but effectively and without making them feel guilt for the fact that they have a betting problem.
Well, buying stock. Anyone of you have stock here? No.
Mm.
Is that gambling? Buying stock is gambling? What do you think? Jesse, what do you think?
Well, I have purchased both stocks and bonds. And I guess it is gambling to an extent. However, I have like a financial advisor. So it definitely takes, and plus I'm a finance major, so I think I'm a little more well-versed in this subject than maybe some other people are. But I would definitely recommend seeing a financial advisor, especially if you're not sure what you're doing, because it can be a big risk if you aren't well-versed in that subject. And it's a very complex world. It's a very complex industry. So it definitely can be, but there are definitely more risk-averse stocks and bonds. I'm in riskier ones just because I'm younger and I can afford to take on that risk, but it just really depends what you're comfortable with.
Okay. So if you rely upon the banker or the stock advisor, right? You feel more safe, right? You feel more comfortable to buy those stock. Right?
Yes, that's because, but I don't go through a bank. I go through a financial advisor. So
All right. Anyone have buying stock? I have keep stock here. No. Okay. Anyway, so go back one more time before we finish. Brandon, like Amber mentioned. So why ICT is outperforming the CBT to deal with gambling then? Why is that?
Yeah, CBT focuses on acknowledging the behavior and finding ways to either cope with it or to change that behavior. And with something as complex as a gambling addiction or a substance abuse problem, it's not really effective just to do CBT alone. So I think doing ACT and using mindfulness with it can really help.
Mhm. So even not talking about the gameplay, not talking about the audition, let's say if somehow we get used of consuming unhealthy food, right, Amber? So how could we use ACT to deal with consuming unhealthy foods like any junk food you think of? How could we get out of those by using ACT then?
I think with ACT, when it comes to eating unhealthy foods, I think you could use it as well. First, you can realize that I'm having these urges to eat this unhealthy food, and I give into those urges and then I eat it, and it's not good for my body. So once you make that realization, you can accept that that's what you have been doing instead of trying to fight that or ignoring that you have these urges and giving into them more. And you can make a commitment to trying not to eat these foods. So let's say I can my life value is, oh, I want to stop eating these unhealthy foods so I can be healthier. Well, an action I can take towards that is I will not buy as much unhealthy food when I go to the grocery store. Or you could buy more fruit or more vegetables instead of the unhealthy food to help you develop a more healthier behavior of, well, if I'm hungry, then I will just eat an apple instead of just eating chips, and making a commitment towards that action plan instead of just pretending that the problem doesn't exist.
Mm. Mm. Okay. All right. So that's great then. Okay. See that the more we read those articles, right, the more you can see it's so prevalent, right? That mindfulness practice, whether it's ACT and so forth, right, is so applicable, it's so helpful. Okay. And that's your blessing to take the class to learn more in detail so that you can apply in your life as well as helping others. All right, so thanks, and that's all. That's all for us today. Any question before we move on? Any question? Okay, so otherwise, I will let you go. And please, Amber and Brandon, please stay back, okay?